I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is all the mods 10 to the sky. Nothing like the smell of burnt circuitry in the morning here on the All the Mods 10 to the Sky world. You gotta love it when I let you know what the world smells like. It's great. But in all seriousness, today I need to expand our factory and our facility, and I need to start producing more power because at the moment, I am very limited in our power. And while I could keep expanding our power and lava network, I think I want to start slowly switching to another mod that can make significantly more power than, well, these measly 64k magmatic generators, which, don't get me wrong, they are great for early power, producing about 10,000 each. But remember, this costs 64 of the original generators, which is kind of a lot of resources technically. And so we should be able to get by using lava in a much more effective way, with the goal of eventually getting away from lava entirely and switching to a new type of lava down the road. Now, I've been looking through the mod pack and I've sort of decided that as much as I don't want to use Powah, I think the Powah mod is still one of the best ways to generate a significant early game power, at least early to mid game. It does produce a significant amount of power without needing to dive heavily into, for example, mechanism. And I believe in this pack, mechanism has been nerfed, at least for the early game power, as it has been in just about every modern mod pack for some reason. You can't just go and make a gas burning generator and then call it quits. So instead, we can just make this from the Powah mod and call it quits, which I still don't get me on that argument. But there are several ways that you could generate power in here, then generate quite a bit. For example, the rainbow furnace. If you get it set up, which is very easy to do, just considering that we have like tons of power, you can generate a passive 50,000 RF per tick, and it really doesn't require a whole lot to get up and running. You just have to have all of the other furnaces basically generating power, and you can void off that power just to generate that 50,000. That's pretty straightforward. There's also getting all of the industrial foregoing generators, which just require you to go all the way through industrial foregoing because you are going to need the final tier cases to be able to make this, but this generates 25 million, and I would call this a mid to late game power source. It is pretty cool and something we might end up doing. It's also one of my favorite generator setups to do because of all the automation that's required, and every pack seems to have a different way that you can automate it every time. Then for another great one is going to be like all of these generators from this mod here, and specifically Nether Star generators. I mean, this generates a lot of power, but does it generate more power than we can generate with the Powah mod? I still think the Powah mod comes in really strong here. And I think in all honesty, if we go ahead and we get the Powah mod up and running, we are going to be good on power, carrying us all the way into in-game, I think. So where will we put the Powah mod? It doesn't take a whole lot of space, but the reactors do take up a 3x3x5 tall space, which is not that large, honestly. I mean, it's pretty small. We're generating the resources for the actual reactors, and we need a space to put that. I was thinking, since I enclosed all of this, because I want this centerpiece to be enclosed, and leave space so that way I can have another section that rises up. Well, this I might be able to extend up top here. So that way we can carry our power cable maybe through the top and run it all the way up here, or we can get a wireless adapter. That way we have access to all 32 channels up here. So I would need maybe 1, 2, 3 blocks worth of space, and maybe we pop open here. Let's see, how much space do we actually have? I mean, it's not a lot. Not a lot, honestly. We'd have to go much higher, I think, to get a flatter area. So you know what? Maybe we go, I mean, maybe we go till at least we have like a 9x9 area, I think. So to about here, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That gives us a 9 wide platform if we continue all the way out. Right about here. Let's see. Does this look funny up on the roof? That is, it really does. This makes for a really hard shape to build with, I tell you. But you know what? What we could do with this is we could just turn this into a reactor shelf where we don't need a whole lot of space. We just simply need holes that can contain our reactor. So now this up here is what I'm thinking. I mean, we can have a bunch of reactors. So we have like a reactor here, maybe actually remove like this section right here And we can make this the spot where the actual Powah itself is automated, and it's surrounded by the 6 generators that we can set up. Because in reality, these reactors, they don't need a whole lot of space. Like I said, they just take up a 3x3x4 tall space. And then the actual Powah for the Powah mod to get things automated only takes up a 3x3 space, really. Now, getting the AE system up here, yeah, I'm going to place a wireless connector all the way up top here, and then directly down below, I think on the white node, I can go ahead and apply this to get this all hooked up. Extended AE has definitely fostered a new love for me for Applied Energistics. So I mean, this has completely revolutionized the way I do Applied Energistics. Now, I don't want to bore you with the next step, so yes, I am going to be auto-crafting basically all of the base Powah components. So I've got to automate the production of the dielectric paste, very easy. It's just going to quite literally use some of the resources we're already generating, and then all of the minute little tiny processes. However, I am going to show you how we can automate the energizing orb quickly with Applied Energistics, assuming you got all of the base components auto-craftable. Now, we'll say a quick tip when you're actually generating, like for example, the rods and stuff like that, things that can have data associated with them. I do recommend after you've crafted your first tier, when you go on to making like the basic tier, for example, that you enable substitutions in this craft, so that way it can use one that might potentially have energy in it. This will save us in the future. Also, don't forget to disable this after you're done with all of this, because you don't want to accidentally substitute something, for example, like glass or logs that you may really like. I will tell you, Powah is just one of those mods that requires so many patterns because there's just so many items, and it is very much a recursive situation where you start with a base tier, then you need the base tier to be upgraded to the next tier, the next tier, the next tier, all the way up until the final tier, for example. You know what? I think the tedium is well worth it. So after getting all of the base auto crafting done, let's talk about how we actually get started with this mod. So we have the energizing orb. This is where all of our crafts are going to be actually handled. And to be able to power it, we need to use these energizing rods. These energizing rods can't be further than within a 9x9 space around it. So essentially, this needs to be within within 4 blocks from the center of here. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. But if it was on the 5th block, it wouldn't actually reach the energizing orb to power it. So up here, I have this a few blocks up. Basically, we have a flux point that's going to be providing power to our 4 energizing rods that are up here. And we can see they are linked if we have this in linked mode and we use the wrench from the mod. You can see the lasers are shining down. I've been using this mod for years, so you may have seen videos on this, so you probably know how this all works, but there is a limitation to these energizing rods as they can only send and receive so much power. So you do have to tier them up as you continue on. And the more of them you have, of course, the more power it can ultimately send to the product. But we have another problem. That is, whenever we actually craft this, if, for example, I want to make the next tier, which is going to be the gold, if we look over here in the Flux networks, because we can see how things are used, you can see we have iron, and we need to make energized steel, but it requires 1 iron and 1 gold. Well, we can't, we can technically only send 1 at a time. So you can see right there, it sent and it actually crafted, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want. But what we don't want to do is send 2 in at a time, for example, like this, because then the craft doesn't work. So this is like a mod that actually requires you to quote unquote regulate, which is a term that's used quite a lot in modded Minecraft, to regulate the amount of items that are going into this actual energizing orb. We have to do this in a very particular way. And it just so happens that Applied Energistics is really good at regulating items going into things like this energizing orb. However, what it's normally not good at is automatically pulling out of the energizing orb. For example, like a hopper. And now normally for this, I would use something like, I don't know, modular routers, right? Because modular routers are so powerful and so good. But in this case, I think I'm just going to connect it directly up to AE, and we'll just have an importer on here. So a regular import bus can go onto here. We don't have to worry about filtering or anything like that because the import bus can automatically pull the items back in. We just simply need a regular pattern provider to send the product. And this will send very, very fast. Trust me. Some things I do recommend though, to make sure that this is going to be incredibly fast for later game automations, is to make sure your import bus here is accelerated as fast as possible. to kind of ignore that whole ramp up period. Now to lock the craft, like I was mentioning before, where you can't have like more than one of the individual items required for the craft in here at a time, we can do that simply by just clicking the blocking mode button, and that is going to work just fine. There is a locking mode, however, if you right click here, you can put it into lock crafting until the primary result is returned. That is also a good method, but I mean, you can get by with just simply using blocking mode for this particular craft. And this is just about all we need to be able to automate this. And when building the actual pattern, we need to click, for example, the energizing orb and just encode the base pattern that you see right here. Very simple, and place that inside here. And now we are able to automate, for example, energized steel. So let's go ahead and make 10 of those. And we can see that operation is happening and the importer is pulling the items in. And this will get quicker the more of these that go in. If you wanted to make this faster, that's where that instant pull out would happen from something like a modular router that we could put like underneath the pattern provider, for example, or maybe one block away from the pattern provider, because we wouldn't want the pattern provider to actually send to any of the inventories nearby, because that's another thing that the pattern provider can do. If you ever experience problems, it's probably because you didn't set the direction on this to force it to only send to this side. Now, another interesting way that we could do this, because I didn't even realize that the translocators mod was in here. It's kind of cool to see it in here. We could use the translocator mod as well, instead of an importer, saving us on a few things. However, we need an interface or something to actually send into this. So like we could do a interface, and let's see, have this on the side, which acts as an import and export bus. We can place that right here and use something like the translocators. And this is a pretty fast method as well of getting items from one location to another. But I tell you what, this used to be a very laggy solution to things back in the day, and I wonder if it's still that way. I have no idea. I still find it interesting that those are in here, especially when we have the item transporters, which Industrial Foregoing adds and well does exactly the same thing. I still don't know if any of this is faster though than our actual integrated or faster than our modular router setups. It might be cheaper though. But yeah, just to show you that these are exactly the same and basically serve the same function. I mean, just look at this. These also accept upgrades and everything. Look at these, like that. It works the same way. Let's try this though by using the Industrial Foregoing ones, even though the other ones are kind of classic. Let's try Powah. Let's go ahead and request like 20 more of these, and let's just see. Yeah, and that's already faster than doing it, well, right off the bat from the other method. You don't see the items flowing through on these, but yeah, this does work. I still might end up switching this to the modular router method. It's so much faster, I think. You know what? Never mind. Item translocators, incredibly quick. Watch this. Look at this. It happens so fast, you don't even see the items switching. So yeah, this definitely solves that problem. Just make sure if you use an interface next to a pattern provider that the pattern provider is set to the directional mode. And now is where things get kind of easy. For example, to do the blaze rods, we just need to send either blaze rods or blaze powder into the mix here. We have blaze powder basically automated, but we have blaze rods automated as well through Essence, because I did end up making that seed. So now here is where opinions may differ, and you can let me know down in the comments below, what is your favorite way of setting this up? I would love to hear from you in the comments. Like, I don't know, maybe describe the way that you like to set up this energizing orb automation, because I'm almost positive everybody probably has their own way of doing things. But now for the fun part. We have our basics sort of set up, but what I want to do is get at least a few of these upgraded. And then we need to change all of our patterns, because this is definitely not the most optimal way of doing this whole operation. Creating the entire blocks is the best way. I mean, it may require a little bit more auto crafting and a few more patterns to be able to uncraft it down from the blocks, but it's going to be worth it. However, this cannot be done with the nitro crystal, so also keep that in mind. I also recommend while you're adding it, go ahead and get the eye set up, so that way you could use this if you want to use any of the ender gates or things like that in the future. So there we go. I've got this making all the way up to the spirited version, which is the highest tier before we need to require like nether star automation, but we're going to work on nether star automation in another episode. But for right now, going up to this tier is going to be worthwhile. And let's see, if we take a look at this tier in our generation here, I mean, these are going to generate around 100,000 FE per tick, assuming that we give it the base fluid and our regular fuels, and we also give it dry ice, which by the way, we do have to automate with Powah. So, I mean, assuming we give it all of those things, we should be fine. And this is why the ice essence is kind of nice, because we can use this ice essence to immediately make packed ice, which will allow us to, well, turn that into blue ice and easily convert the blue ice with the Powah mod into dry ice. And these reactors aren't really going to be consuming all that much dry ice. But I mean, if we go ahead and set up all of these reactors here, I mean, we are looking at generating at least 600,000 FE per tick just for having 6 of them put in place. You know what? I do want to get 6 of these set up, but it's probably best to at least get the first tier set up so that way we're not running into any power issues, because generating these blocks do take a significant amount of power, and this can send out a lot more power than we're currently generating. So yeah, getting it, the first tier set up is probably a good idea. So the highest tier that we can go, because we just don't have the nether stars, is going to be the spirited tier. So I am going to need 36 of these. It does craft in batches of 4 when they do craft. So we don't need all that much, but it is going to take just a little bit, because you do have to start all the way from the bottom tier. It's recursive. You basically craft this, and then those 4 are then going to be used in the next tier. Then those 4 are going to be carried on all the way up until you get to the final tier. And you can see we're already running into power issues. Look at that. Yes, this is definitely not carrying enough power at the moment. But we're going to solve that as soon as we get our first generator or first reactor crafted. We should be able to solve this. Let's hope it doesn't eat into our AE system. You know what? Just to make sure, because we are using Flux Networks, we can change this up here and make sure that it actually doesn't mess with our AE. So to do this, we can set a negative priority to this and give it a -1 priority. Then what it's going to do is it's only going to use excess power that we're not using in our Planergistics system, to make sure it keeps this up online, because we need to make sure that stays online. That is one of the powerful parts, by the way, of the Flux Networks mod. Now, this may seem crazy, but while this is crafting, there is another mod I do want to work on today. And that is Just Dire Things. And this, believe it or not, is going to require us to go to the end and actually kill the dragon real quick. And I know the dragon is kind of boring watching all of that process, but it's going to be even more boring because we're going to be able to just completely annihilate it with the spell book. And I'm telling you, getting to the end is incredibly easy. We do need some crushed instone, which I believe we'll get like quite literally right now. Let's see, if I pull out these cards, it won't go fast enough, but this will still receive the crushed instone. There we go. Throw that into our system and we can make ourselves an end cake. It is so easy to get to the end. Now, why exactly am I going to the end, you might ask? Well, Just Dire Things is in here, and I kind of want to progress a little bit into the Just Dire Things mod. And for one specific reason, I want to be able to fly around the base a lot quicker. And there is a very special wand that allows me to dash around, and I would like to actually be able to use Just Dire Things in more advanced ways. So going to the end is required. Funny thing, in this pack, I still haven't gone to the nether. So we're going to the end before the nether. I mean, going to the nether is going to be something that we will do once we have, like, for example, methods of getting spawners up and running. I think that's going to be one of the primary reasons to even go to the nether. Also, you may be wondering, Chosen, what are you doing? Like, why are you working on Draconic Evolution while explaining all of this to me? And I'm going to say, well, Dislocator pedestals and dislocators for the win. This mod is so good, you are not going to want to miss out on this. This is a great way you can teleport around, and if you actually work your way up to getting an advanced dislocator, this is even better. This allows us to teleport around our world just by simply clicking a button. But in this case, we can use a dislocator to teleport us directly here. For example, right in front of our bed, I can set up this as our spawn point, and I can shift right click, and we have now bound this dislocator to this particular spot in the world. We can name it with an anvil, and whenever we go to the end, we can set this dislocator as well. And what we can do is place down a pedestal, and whenever we come back, we can just right click the pedestal and it doesn't consume durability on the dislocator. Pretty cool. But by default, it does have 32 uses, just in case you did want to use it. I do recommend naming these, by the way. Just like that, that one is now named home. So I guess with that, it's now time to actually go to the end and hope everything is normal. So yes, I right click the end cake. It only gives us a single slice. And we are now in the end. And I did make sure my my base was chunk loaded, so that way we can continue our flight in here. But I'm assuming everything is pretty much normal besides the fact that we spawn on this platform. Let's see. I do want to travel over here. Let's see, is there anything else I should be worried about? I don't think so. Don't really want to look at any Enderman. I mean, we can set this point right here up. Killing the dragon's gonna be really easy. So the dislocator for this, we'll set it here. We'll place this down, and then this is where we're going to put in our home, so that way we can teleport back home just by right-clicking this. But this one, I'm going to rename simply to the end. So end, and voila. Very, very easy to do. Now, the main thing I need to grab from here is definitely going to be these bottles. And we could just go back home. We don't even have to really kill the dragon. I just need to get Dragon's Breath. That's pretty much it. As soon as this guy gets happy enough. But I do want to show you, inside of my spellbook here, you have a projectile harm amplify with all of this gear on. And the spell damage modifiers, this thing does deal a ton of damage, by the way. And I mean a ton of damage. I don't know if I can just directly click on the dragon, but he should spit out some Dragon's Breath that we can pick up. We only need a little bit, by the way. Let's see. There we go. And I'm going to grab a few bottles of those. Thank you for that, dragon. And let's see. How much damage can we deal? A lot. So much so that we can stop the dragon from moving. And we do not have to break anything. Ours is incredibly powerful, by the way, in case you haven't noticed. This is why I said this mod is super worth it, at least for the base dragon. I mean, it's more than enough. And can stun lock. Can definitely stun lock the dragon. What even hit me? I don't even know what hit me there. But yes. All right, let's stun lock this dragon. There we go. And dragon is definitely gone. Nice. We'll go down here, pick up all this stuff. It apparently spawned a bee. I don't even know where that came from. But we should also get a heart too. So that's something that I should note. There we go. We get a heart, dragon heart. Is one of the things that we need. And we can technically get unlimited Dragon's Breath once we have ourselves the egg. Wherever the egg actually went. Okay, over here. So yes, get a torch. Oh, that's right. We can't. We got to grab a torch from here. And pick up our dragon egg to be able to use back at the base. Man, I really wish this bee would leave me alone. Hey, you're essentially a goner right now. All right, you know that? You are a goner. I'll come back for bees later, but right now, it'll drop down. And there we go. And we can use this with our extractor. And we can make ourselves more dragon eggs and all kinds of other fun stuff. So let's go ahead and beat the game. Beautiful. We have defeated Minecraft. Time to head back home. We spawn right back here. And this is where I want to put the end. So that way we can just simply teleport to the end. We right click and it takes us right to the end. We right click here, takes us right back home. You gotta love that. And now for the fun part. Just dire things. We're able to upgrade to the Void Shimmer Goo. Oh, this is great. Void Shimmer Goo. And then we, I believe, can immediately upgrade it to the Shadow Pulse Goo, allowing us to craft the highest tier components. And we have all of these skulk materials, by the way, because we are processing our sieving with the high tier mesh, and we're crushing down in stone, allowing us to get all of these materials. And now that we have so much ancient debris from our other processes, making netherite blocks is now incredibly easy for us to do. Now we do need Skulk, I believe. So we right click this with Skulk to activate it. And this also is really fast. So this high tier goo processes all of this. This is now you're just showing off. Yeah, no joke. That is exactly what we're doing. We are going to be showing off because I want to be able to travel around the base much quicker. To be able to do that, we are going to utilize the Eclipse Gate wand. Such a good thing to make. And this does use the Void Shift one and the Blaze Jet, so we need all of the prior tiers and the Celestia gems. So on top of all of the Eclipse alloy, we also got to do Diamond. But I mean, making all of this, like this is going to be very fast. It also looks like it might hold its product a bit quicker. But yeah, this goes very quick too. And all of the other tiers get incredibly fast. Oh, the quality of life. Oh, how it shines here. This is a really, really powerful wand. And you can hold it in your hand, but I do recommend actually doing shift right click and turning off a few things. Void shift is something that I do not like so much. I do like air burst. And then that's just about it. But in the air burst, you can actually set some settings by right clicking this, and you can define your keybind by clicking here and then going to custom keybind, and then underneath activate from inventory, and then setting the keybind to any sort of button. I like to use the mouse button, and you can change the control of how far it actually bursts you in the air. But now you can activate this without it needing to be inside of your hotbar. However, I don't have a way of charging things directly in my hotbar, so it technically being in this far right slot is fine, but I can be using anything. I can be holding my sword and still be able to use this to be able to get around. It is so nice. And yes, you kind of overshoot things. That's where it is kind of nice to be able to control how much this bursts you around. 5 seems to be pretty good. I just want quicker ways to be able to get up here, and this is very, very helpful for that. Just in case you were looking for that sweet spot, I mean, honestly, 3 seems to be just about the sweet spot. Now, the void shift is kind of cool. Void shift allows you to basically teleport to the location you're looking at if you are within range of its effect. So yeah, if I wanted to go on top of this block right here, I would just basically look at it, and if I had it enabled, I would click, and it would just teleport me immediately there, and also gives you a little player model kind of showing where you would teleport. But as you can see, it does have some range limitations. Like if I click, it doesn't teleport me directly to the ground, which I mean, I'm sure is fine. I'm not the biggest fan of that. I don't use it all that much, but I mean, I will definitely be using this. It's so much fun. Also, since we're on the topic of moving around and I'm still waiting for this to finish up, we have not enough wands in here too, which is pretty neat, because not enough wands gives you a teleportation wand. It's kind of nice to have in your bag, kind of in your back pocket, because if you're building things like I'm building here, you can teleport straight through walls, which is incredibly nice for those times that you just don't want to have to break a wall to be able to get back there or get through. You can just simply hold shift and right click, and then its normal mode teleports you around, similar to the Dire tool, right? Where you're looking at is where it's going to try to shift you. But the fact that you can just teleport through walls is fantastic. Which, I mean, technically the Eclipse wand can do a similar thing. However, it kind of creates a hole in the wall for you to shift through. So yeah, it basically clears a hole in the wall. But yeah, I would much prefer to use something like this that just allows me to go right through. And you gotta love these quality of lives. And also, while I'm still waiting for the reactor to get into place, I figured I would go ahead and use my concrete and actually start working on the second layer here. And this is kind of what I'm going with. We are going to have some fins that run all the way down the backside here. And there's going to be another tower section that goes even further. This is going to be a nice flat platform. And I think this will be a nice place for the bees once we start getting into that mod. So yeah, it's just been a lot of me essentially filling in this giant box. It's a lot. I tell you what, this is going to look epic when it is done. I've even started to get the fins in place that extrude from the outside. There's also going to be a section that comes out into the front that gets all connected. It's going to look great. But now back to Powah Reactor. Okay, so I have all 36 ready to go, and I absolutely love this because all we have to do is click and it auto builds the reactor for me. So nice of them to do this. And there we go. So once this reactor is completely formed, boop, perfect. We now have access to all kinds of stuff. So for example, we have a power point, which is the little red dot that's right here. And I believe it's on all the sides. We also have input, which are these sides right here. So we can input items and stuff like that into the back. Now I do like to turn on auto mode. That way it automatically conserves some resources. But the main thing we need to send into here is going to be coal blocks. So we need to send coal into this. We need to send redstone blocks into this. And then we also need to send the very special Powah fuel, the uraninite, which is going to go in here. We also need to click in a bucket of water. That's actually the easiest part, right? I believe we can just fill that and we never have to worry about feeding water again. And then over here, we need to feed it dry ice. So there's four things that we need to give to this in order for it to generate power for us. All of this should be easily handled with a simple export bus from Applied Energistics. Really, really straightforward here, and making sure we set it to schedule mode round robin. That way at round robin, sending the items into here. Now, the couple things we are going to need to make sure we have on craft, that is going to be like redstone blocks. We do have some, but I want to make sure the system can craft some if need be. We're also going to need, besides redstone blocks, we're going to need coal blocks. Now, at the moment, they did change the way the coal geode chars work. Unfortunately, my system is currently smelting them into graphite, but I do plan on setting up multiple systems down here that is going to utilize the more advanced Just Dire Things tools. And that plan is to also have some that do not smelt. And one of those arrays is definitely going to be coal, because coal is incredibly powerful. And we can just convert these coal shards directly into coal blocks now that we have this update just like doing this. So because I plan on using this system in the future, I think this is how I do want to provide the coal blocks and the auto crafting for it. Now, once we get this all up and running, eventually we probably want this to be on its own energizing orb, like on a separate network. But for right now, getting this up and running, I'm going to have the process happening here. Now, I don't want to keep it in stock, so we do need to configure a few things. So let's get redstone blocks, make sure this has a crafting pattern. We'll throw that into the list. But, I mean, essentially what we need to do is we need to make sure that coal, uraninite, all of that is situated here. So, do I have uraninite in stock? Okay, we have 12,000 of this. So that should be more than enough to kind of get everything up and rolling. So we need to make sure that that gets sent into the system. So that's first things first. Then we need coal in block form, right? So actually, let's just have one, so that way we can put it in for right now. So we have the one block, and I do want this to craft, but I'm unsure. I think I just want it to only craft when it's exporting into this machine. So in this case, it shouldn't be messing with what we have in stock in our system. So if I make 10 of these in a separate line, we're not going to notice 10 of those leaving. This is going to stay fully stocked. So that's kind of what we want. And then redstone, I don't want it to use stock. I guess I could just have it craft as needed. So let's also take a block of that. That's going to use the exact same settings on this card. And if we don't have it, it is going to request a craft, very simple. And then dry ice. Dry ice also, same scenario here. I want to craft one just to make sure it works. Works pretty good, it looks like to me. And there we go. So now we have everything filled up. Uraninite, all of that fun stuff, and we are starting to generate power. The only thing that can make this faster is by simply putting in acceleration cards to make it send to the machine a bit quicker. And you can see all these items going in. Uraninite is going to need to be added to that list soon, and it's probably going to happen very, very soon. Look at all that dry ice that was just generated. Holy smokes, that generates it really fast. Okay. Now, where is our uraninite, and why is uraninite not actually going in? Oh, I wonder if this is a problem. Yeah, this is a problem due to us using the crafting card and setting the schedule, or setting this mode to not use stocked items. Ah, interesting. Well, now that's definitely a limitation. Yeah, you know what? I think what we might do, we'll toggle this for right now, and we'll make it use stocked items. I mean, I guess it really doesn't make that big of a difference if it did or didn't, but there we go. Okay, so yeah, ignore the fact of having that. Just know that that is a thing. Otherwise, what I'd have to do is have another exporter on the machine that is sending to another one of these sides to allow that in. But there we go. So now we can actually handle the power. It is currently filling up and storing 100 million FE, which is a ton. So we need a plug from our Powah mod. And this is going to be taking in power on our main network. And now it is providing even more power, which should allow us to now easily craft more, considering how much we are producing. This is going to provide it, right? Is the red dot not the power? I thought it was the power. Maybe this, okay, so this is the output for the power too. Okay, well, there we go. I feel like that always confuses me. That actually might be the redstone port instead, like where you can control this with redstone, but I recommend just flipping the switch and making it easier on yourself. Now, that first set took quite a while for us to craft all up, but this should now have the power, and we should be able to craft this significantly faster now. Like, making this set should be really easy, plus we have all of the power buffer from this. Oh man, it is quite a lot. And it can store up to 100 million FE, right? and it has an extraction rate of 400,000. So when we pull out of this buffer, we are pulling out up to 400,000 FE per tick. And it just passively generates that 100K. Now, here's the tip that you're probably waiting for this entire episode, right? I just want to make this really quick on myself, right? So if I'm adding more and I'm doing the same processes over and over again, I'm surely there's a way to make it easier. So I don't have to hand place all of these items in here anymore, right? There is. We can actually use a memory card. So all I have to do on this is place an extractor, use a memory card from Applied Energistics, and we can hold down Control and right click, and that's going to copy all of our settings, not just our settings, but it's also going to copy what cards we actually used for the system. And whenever I right click this, this is currently completely empty. When I right click it, all of the configurations are loaded, including the acceleration cards and the configuration, everything we had, and everything is going to ramp up and start. So it is quite literally that simple. Such a nice quality of life. We throw that in, flip that on, and now this reactor is generating the same amount of power, about 1,000 FE per tick, give or take. It says 93. Sorry, not 1,000, 100, close to 100,000 FE per tick. And isn't that beautiful? Look at all of this getting up and ready to go. We're going to have so much power. It's gonna be great. Now I was thinking, how could I make these look a little bit better? So I went ahead and removed the underside of them, and I want to use copycat steps. I'm going to place some cyan terracotta, and this is going to just give it like a nice little edge underneath while also still showing that it's overhanging, which I think is going to look nice. So overall, this is going to provide some really nice power for us. This is going to allow us to expand our automations to make sure we can also generate more power in the future. That's kind of the name of the game of the modded Minecraft realm. If we run out of power, well, the bad things happen. So we want to prevent that as much as possible. And just like I mentioned priorities earlier, just to make sure our Applied Energistics system is always the #1 priority, we might actually want to set this to a higher priority than every other base point we might place on something. So setting this to a priority of 1 will make sure that this always has a higher priority. There's not a lot of things we need to prioritize power for, but AE is definitely one of those things, because there's nothing worse than this thing shutting down and you not having access to your items anymore. So now we have quite literally the wall of Powah. Yes, you know what? I'm really excited about this because this is only the start. I do plan on upgrading all of these. All we have to do is just simply break the block, and then we can upgrade them to the highest tier once we go ahead and start automating nether stars. But now that we have power, automating nether stars is going to be much, much simpler. And that's something that we're definitely gonna have to worry about next episode. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and hopefully you're enjoying the build and the progression as I'm slowly getting this thing built. It is a lot of concrete. Thankfully, I've had the concrete just constantly generating while I've been working all these other things, but it has definitely been working out. And if you did enjoy, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already. And well, give this video, guys, a huge thumbs up. And with that being said, it is now time for me to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that amazing thanks is going to go out to Sergeant Ravioli. Thank you so much for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and supporting this content in one of the best ways possible. You absolute boss. And getting access to the world download, supporter servers, and all kinds of other fun perks. So definitely be sure to check that out if you haven't already, guys. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next episode. And as always, thanks for watching.